Alabama does not have a registration problem. We haven't had a registration problem. The problem has been the turnout. And so we wanted to develop a train-the-trainer model for our communities. And so we are actually going to be in over 20 counties in Alabama through September, and we're training people to be on the ground. We're training them in understanding what's happening with local legislation versus federal legislation.
Alrighty, welcome back. Alabama Politics This Week. Josh Boone, David Person, and we are happy, as always, to have some of our friends from the Southern Poverty Law Center with us. Tafeni English-Relf has been around. I mean, honestly, Tafeni at this point could be like considered a special guest host, I think.
Yeah.
With as many
She's
times
a regular.
she's been on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lauren Blanding is also back with us. Lauren, I really appreciate you coming back on as well. So people may have noticed that whenever we have people from Southern Poverty Law Center on, we get them in multiples because there's always so much stuff going on that they've got, and it's always great stuff. It really is, and this is no exception here. Tafeni is going to talk about what's going on with Democracy Days, or Days of Democracy. I'm sorry, Days of Democracy. I almost feel like I'm not. These are the days of our lives. Used to be a big fan back in my high school days. I'm sorry.
Didn't we all?
What's going on?
Yeah, right.
Look, didn't we all? Didn't we all?
That damn Stefano. Oh. See? Hey, you know what? You see how David's acting right now? Tafeni, would you like a job as a co-host over here? Because we're on the same page. We know what we're going with. It's just, see?
Listen, bring it on. I believe David was a Young and the Restless fan.
No, what I was a General Hospital fan. That's what I was.
My goodness.
General Hospital. One Life to Live at General
Luke
Hospital.
And Laura. Okay.
Luke and Laura. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Didn't hold a candle to Bow and
with the rest of
Hope.
the country.
With the rest of the country? Are you kidding
With the
me?
rest of the country. That's
Bow
right.
and Hope riding off on that. Listen.
Yeah. I mean, come on. But poor Lauren is so lost over here. She was like, what? How old are you? My God.
She was like, boomers. I know, I can just hear her now. Boomers.
Yeah. What did I wander into? How in the hell are these people even online? My God.
I'm just smiling like I know what you guys are talking about.
All right. Just for that, Lauren, you have to go first. All right. Lauren, so you're going to talk about, well, we've got Days of Democracy. We're also going to talk about the Emmett Till exhibit. That is one of the many great things that the Southern Poverty Law Center brings with the Civil Rights Museum is a number of different exhibits that often come through, and this is a pretty special one. Talk a bit about what the Emmett Till exhibit is, when it's going to be there, how people can see it. Just give us all the information.
Yes, so the Civil Rights Memorial Center will be hosting the Emmett Till exhibit, which was founded and created by the Emmett Till Institute, the Emmett Till Interpreter Center, as well as the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. So this museum has been traveling to different museums and historical sites across the United States for some years now. So we have the opportunity to have it here in Montgomery at the Civil Rights Memorial Center, with the opening date being on Tuesday, April 20th. And it'll run through August 17th. So we'll have it here about 3 months. And people, as they come into the Civil Rights Memorial Center, or as we call it, the CRMC, all they have to do is just purchase general admission tickets, which are $5 for adults, $2 for students, and free admission for children. And as they go through the museum space, they'll have the opportunity to view and just take notes of the exhibit. So we just wanted to have it there to continue sharing the story of Emmett and his mom, Mamie Till. Just based on what's going on in the world today, we want to continue to honor and uplift and acknowledge those that lost their lives fighting during the movement. So it'll be here again on April 28th and running through August 17th. So we invite any and everyone to come out. We want to see you. Bring your family, your friends, your church groups. We want the schools to come out, everybody to come out to see the exhibit. It's being installed this week, so I have a preview of it, and it's going to be great. Great educational and awareness opportunity for all involved.
You know,
Yeah,
Lauren,
and you're right about getting out there probably before the current administration tries to outlaw it. So yeah.
well, and that's really what I was going to talk about, Josh, or ask Lauren about. I wonder about. I'm always happy to hear about these things, but then I also wonder how is this able to happen with the current level of hostility that's being directed at Black history and especially this kind of Black history by the current administration.
Well, for us at Southern Poverty Law Center, it's able to happen because we want to continue to have those conversations, the hard conversations, and with the support of our leadership, our supporters, we're able to bring these type of events, exhibits to the public. With us being a nonprofit organization, we just have the resources and the ability to do it. So even though they want to eliminate the discussions, the conversations, we're doing the reverse. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to take a stand and just do what's right and what's just. So thanks to all of our supporters and leadership team members for allowing us to continue to have these opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other thing that comes to mind is that there may be people, in fact, I think there often are people on the other side of the issue who say, why are we talking about this? It's dark, it's negative, but it also happened way in the past. Why is it relevant today?
Well, it's relevant today, even though it was the past. And, a lot of people think it was so long ago. But if you think about it, we're in 2026, and this was during the 50s and 60s, when some of our parents, grandparents were alive. So we grew up, for people like myself, we grew up hearing the stories and kind of being faced with the reality of it all. And it's the past, but you need to know about the past to determine what you need to do and prevent for your future purposes. So it's definitely important for us to continue talking about it. Because even with what's going on today, we didn't think we would be faced with this situation, this climate, and this type of environment and society that we're dealing with. But from the past and through today, there's some correlation with it all. So we must continue talking, sharing, and just uplifting each other to, continue to fight.
All right, Tafeni, what? I switch over and talk about the days of democracy. Well, I guess I'll start this kind of the same way I did with Lauren. What is it? What do you guys have going on there?
So our Days of Democracy is really a collective statewide effort. And we want to bring people together in their communities, to really begin to or continue to build on their knowledge and skill sets. Because what we recognize is we are an organization, and there are other organizations who also do boots on the ground activation for encouraging people to get out to the polls. We conducted a focus group earlier this year, and then we actually piled that data onto data that we gathered 2 years ago. And we really need to begin to give those same skill sets that we come to the table with in community, so that they can also train community members, so that they're able to, one, speak about the issues that are directly impacting them, getting people to turn out to the polls. Alabama does not have a registration problem. We haven't had a registration problem. The problem has been the turnout. And so we wanted to develop a train-the-trainer model for our communities. And so we are actually going to be in over 20 counties in Alabama through September, and we're training people to be on the ground. We're training them in understanding what's happening with local legislation versus federal legislation. We know the SAVE Act died, and so that's not anything that we have to contend with, but we do have to continue educating people that it died, and this is what you need to vote. This is where your voting precincts are, and having people on the ground who can do that in real time. We firmly believe that democracy can only work well when people participate in that.
Yeah. I hate to give any sort of credit to Donald Trump and the current regime that's there. But the one good thing that does seem to be coming from any time he's anywhere near authority, much less in authority, is the fact that it seems to awaken in people this realization that, hey, we need to be a little more vigilant here. And so I wonder if y'all are out there every day, you see this. What have you noticed an uptick in participation in people who are more engaged and have more of a desire to get engaged?
We are definitely seeing the desire to get engaged. And at the same time, we're also seeing where communities are being very vocal about what works for them and what doesn't work for them. One of the things that we've learned from the focus groups of young people is that they don't want to see organizations when it's just time for election. They want this training and this process to be 365, and how we really connect it at the very local level. And that's the other thing. And people really have a desire to protect the elections. They want to identify where there are challenges, where people have the potential to build the power, and they want to speak up about those local issues that matter most to them. And so with our Vote Your Voice grantees, a few years ago, SPLC set aside a certain amount of money over the next 10 years to really help grassroots organizations to build that capacity and to also be more closely aligned with issue advocacy and tapping into those spaces so that we can really, really understand that power does influence outcomes, but that power is also informed by the people. And so giving people the information that they need. And they don't feel like help is so far off, right? Can you imagine being the only person on the ground and you're trying to, figure out, wait, what's the election protection number? What are the things that we call them for? And so this Days of Democracy training is actually doing that. Right. This is how you set up a rapid response. This is how you mobilize your community. We also help them develop their voter action plans in that as well. So we're bringing the skill set to the communities and empowering them to do this work, whether or not SPLC can deploy an organizer on the ground, or if we can send, someone else, if it's from another organization on the ground, that they actually have the capability to do that within their own communities.
Sure. Well, how would people get involved if they wanted to take part of this stuff? How do they find out about it somewhere near them?
Yep. So if you go to SPLcenter.org, click on the Alabama tab, and it will take you to Days of Democracy. If you don't see your county on there and you want to host a training in your county, there is also an opportunity for you to subscribe to our mailing list. And if you just put in the comment you want to host a Days of Democracy training, we got you.
Hey, Tafeni and Lauren, I want to just deviate for a minute from the course that we've been talking about. As two black women, I think I would be remiss if I did not bring this up. There's a term that is now being circulated quite a bit in the media, and it's black femicide. Black femicide. The killing of black women that seems to be reaching certainly an unusual level, if not an epidemic level. I want to read some names, and I'm sure you all are familiar with the names, but for the sake of our audience, Dr. Fairfax, Shaniqua Pugh, Ashley Janae, possibly, Nancy Meteor, Ashante Allen, Victoria Alexander, Raven Edwards, Gladys Johnson Ball, and also potentially Bianca Huntley, I believe it is, are all believed to be, well, most of them are confirmed victims of black femicide, meaning they were killed by men in their lives, or in two cases, Bianca Huntley and Ashley Janae, it's suspected that they may have been killed by men in their lives. As black women, do you hear these names and see these news stories, and do you feel that this is indeed a concerning trend? Is that something that could potentially affect you or those that you love?
I would say I definitely do. Anytime you see the names, and as an African-American woman, a black woman, it kind of hits home, and it just makes you think of the importance of, having your community, having people that you can lean and support on, but also having people that'll reach out. Oftentimes it's just like, oh, we always have to be strong. We have to, stand and hold our ground. But having those people in our lives that'll say, hey, this is not right. You need to do X, Y, and Z, knowing the resources and the opportunities there are there for us to, kind of escape situations. So anytime you see those names, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about intimate partner violence and the number of Black women who are being killed by their partners, I know the rate is pretty high. I think the last statistic that I may have seen may have been 45%, right? And the one thing that I feel that we have to do is we really have to continue educating and shedding light to intimate partner violence and really looking at the signs, especially when we are looking at Black women and girls, as Lauren talked about. Domestic violence, intimate partner violence across the board is oftentimes something that you don't expect or you don't see it often. And I think we really have to shift the narrative of when women are seeking help, specifically if they're married and the law isn't protecting them, or if they're living with someone and the law won't protect them. Even if they move out or leave, we have to really look at the gaps in those types of things, and we have to look at the narrative, because it is not always just easy to leave, right? Women are contemplating, if they leave, will it be worse? Or you don't know if the children are being threatened. I think if we look at what just happened in Louisiana,
Yeah, with Miss
I
Pugh.
think Baton Rouge with the 8 children.
Yeah.
And it's such a tragedy. And I can't imagine, we don't have all the details, but I wonder, if people had paid more closer attention to that 1 week in the mental health service. What was he saying? What was he doing? And shedding light there. But sometimes it doesn't always show up immediately. It could just be controlling behavior, dictating who they talk to on the phone, how long they're on the phone, getting home from work or school, right? And my husband is a coach, right? And he's oftentimes talking about even the young girls in school and their dynamics of the relationship, and how that is what they have to endure for the sake of being in a relationship. So, I am grateful that people are talking about it now, but what my hope is that because we've had so many headlines, that the conversation doesn't die with the headlines, that we really need to
Yes.
be on the ground. I'm looking at our local legislation, looking at our network of care for victims, and also safety plans for victims.
And just to clarify, with Miss Shaniqua Pugh in Louisiana, she had 7 children that were killed, but there was another woman who was not identified in the story that I read, who was also killed, and her child was killed, and by the same man. So this man killed 2 women and 8 children altogether, apparently. I want to ask you as a follow-up, both of you as a follow-up, what do you think we should be saying to and teaching the boys who will become teenagers, older teenagers, or men who might potentially become the perpetrators of femicide?
I think it's important for the young men and adult men just to be surrounded again by their different mentor programs. So as the young boys are in these programs, teaching them how to be a man, how to be respectful, learning what's right and what's wrong. Because I know you come from different homes, different environments, but just having that exposure and the relationships with the mentor programs, and even as adult, having the honest conversations. I know anytime that I talk to my friends or even my family with life situations, I can get the advice that's needed. And as Tafeni mentioned, sometimes it may be difficult to leave or escape a situation. You may not always think, especially as teenagers, oh, you're just telling me this, I know what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is right. But I just think it's important for you to continue surrounding yourselves with people who can give you the advice, but also lead you and carry you through the stages of going from a young man to an adult. And just, for me, it's all about respect, communication, and just, I know growing up, my mom always says, do what's right.
Yeah.
Tafeni?
And I think, I think we really have to look at community and culture much more closely, right? I think we have young people who grow up in very different households, and it's very difficult to challenge values that individuals grow up with, right? And so if they are in a home that is one where it is a dominant control factor, that's what they're learning, right? And they may be in a home where the dominant control factor doesn't escalate to violence, but they also may, as they grow up, they may be, they may have a propensity toward the violence. And so we really have to look at ways in which we are talking about managing conflict, resolving conflict, and then also being able to identify what you're feeling and a proper response to the feeling, right? If you have insecurities or jealousy, when I was working on my master's degree in counseling and psychology, we always talked about jealousy being that one kind of unresolved emotion that had so many layers that people couldn't really identify what it was or where it started. And so it's really hard to respond to that when you're not exploring what's happening to you in real time. I firmly believe communication is important, and naming a thing, calling a thing what it is, and really saying, like, it is never appropriate to harm anyone when they make a decision that they don't want to be in a relationship anymore. I also think we have to send messaging to our young Black girls and also the young Black men that it's never okay to make a decision for someone. And before you choose violence, you can simply walk away, go to therapy, deal with all of those feelings. And if it's a severe mental illness, there are spaces and places for you to get help. And I think we need to start having those conversations at a very early age. They need to be in our schools. They need to be in our churches. They need to be in our homes. And I know a lot of Black churches shy away from the mental health conversation. And then there's a lot of patriarchy in there as well. So we really have to have conversations about what it means to be in relationship with each other. And so I just always take things back to community and people just doing things differently.
Yeah. I have one other quick thing I want to bring up, and I'm going to confess on the front end, I'm an old guy. I'm an old head. I'm 62 years old. But I find it very troubling and offensive, quite frankly, how freely, as I've watched this evolution over the past 20 to 30 years, how freely men call women bitches now. And it's not just Black men calling in hip hop. I know some people want to say, oh, it's a hip hop. No, it's not just a hip hop thing. You can see it in mainstream television shows and movies where white men are calling white women bitches. And even sometimes where women are calling each other bitches. Do you think I'm just being too old-fashioned here, or what do you think? Just give me your honest feedback.
I don't think you're too old-fashioned. It's a difference in the generational, beliefs, values, and all of that. So all I think about, as you were saying, that is respect. So, you're 62, I'm a millennial. So I grew up still with the same viewpoints, in the household saying, hey, you're never to do that. So it's all about respect. But now the generations are exposed to things in the home. They really don't have a village, social media, so they think that it's okay, but it's not okay. And when you know better, you do better. So I definitely don't think you're wrong. You're totally right. It's inappropriate.
Yeah, I firmly agree with Lauren. And I actually, as someone who ran a nonprofit for 10 years, would have this conversation with young girls, and they would say, oh, Miss English, it's just a term of endearment. I was like, no. That will never be a term of endearment. But then just really talking to them about acceptance. Like, so if you start accepting that and you then develop that as a value, you are going to pass that along to, if you decide to have children, you're going to pass that along to your children, that it's acceptable. And then we get to this where I feel we are now. And so I just think that we have to keep pushing back against that terminology.
Yeah, I think it's dehumanizing.
And I know the young folks are going to come for me.
Yeah, probably so. I think it's dehumanizing, which then creates an atmosphere where violence against women is easier to commit because we're already dehumanizing them by using that word. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's probably true. And I would also like to point out the difference in the conversation steering between David and myself, where David asked these deep, thoughtful questions, and I talked to you about soap operas. Just how we go. But honestly though, the one thing I kept thinking about when this discussion was taking place is this all kind of is part, and I know y'all got to go. We'll get you out of here, but it all kind of goes into there's a problem that it seems to me there's a problem with a lack of conflict resolution and anger that is permeating a large portion of young people, and we see it all the time. In Montgomery and Birmingham, all the problems they talk about with crime and all these other things or whatever. But a lot of it goes back to the fact that, a lot of people are just angry, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they just and you know what? A lot of the times in there, they should be angry at some of the things that have happened and the way that they've grown up and the lack of care and love that they've received, and so, I think until we do a little bit better job of helping some of these kids through this, all of these things femicide and homicide in general are going to be a problem, right?
No, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I say that too because we can't be conflict adverse, and we have to teach those skills, and we can't let social media teach those skills. And I think that that's what a lot of folks are, because there's so much screen time. But we really have to, I think, incorporate all of that back into the classroom, into the learning culture.
Yeah. I think
and in
right.
community. I go back to community. We have to do that work in community.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, to bring it back around. I'm sorry, Lauren. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying putting the phone down and just simply talking.
Yeah. That's true. That's true as well. To bring it all the way back around, back full circle here, we do have the Emmett Till exhibit that's going to be at the Civil Rights Memorial Center starting on April the 28th. Can they look that up also on the website, the Southern Poverty Law Center website, and get more information about where to go and how to buy tickets and all that?
That's correct. So on the same website that Tafeni mentioned, SPLCcenter.org, if they go to the Civil Rights Memorial Center tab, it'll take you to our main website where you'll see more information about the exhibit, and you can also purchase tickets in advance if you choose to, but tickets can be purchased on site as well.
Okay. And while you're on the website, also look up the Days of Democracy. Don't get it confused with Days of Our Lives. Days of Democracy over there. And take a look at that, figure out where you can participate in your community, or if there's not one in your community, set one up yourself. They'll be happy to talk to you and help you do that as well. All right, Lauren, Tafeni, we really do appreciate y'all spending some time with us today, and all of the work that you do in fielding our questions on soap operas and conflict resolution and all of it. It really is a joy to have y'all on. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right.
All right, we're going to slide out. Alabama Politics This Week. We're back in a moment.